Okay, so this afternoon I'm talking to Hannah Sinnett, who's the Chief of System Design Integration at Rolls Royce. What does that mean?
All right, so Chief of System Design Integration within Rolls Royce I'll tell you a bit about the company because I think that will help kind of explain what the job does. So the company's got multiple parts on it. It's got civil aerospace, defence aerospace, and power systems. And I work in civil aerospace, which has got two parts to it itself. So I work in the part that's civil large engines, which is basically making engines for aircraft that would take you on holiday. So things like the A380, the iconic four-engine plane that you will have seen, we make the engines for that. So system design integration is the part of the company that is responsible for the design of the whole engine and integrating those systems together so that they're sort of designed in different parts of the organization, but we need to find a way that they all kind of come together and work together. So that's probably the easiest way to describe kind of the part of the business that I work in. And chief of is just the title for the kind of person who leads that function. So I lead the team of about 110, 120 people who are all working across different ones of the engine projects. So the ones that have been in service for 20, 30 years to the new technology ones that we're developing as well. So that's kind of what that role means.
Yeah. So you're I suppose you're responsible for the products that are being made at the moment, plus those that are already in service.
Yeah, so the ones that are in service, you're constantly learning about how that engine's working. There might be things that happen that we didn't predict, safety things. Imagine like something goes wrong on your car. It's in a similar way, things go wrong on the aircraft, and we have to react quickly to that to make sure we're keeping the flying fleet safe. So we look after those that are in service, the designs that are going into service and their transition in, and then obviously we've got the future program side of things. That's where we're designing what's the aircraft of the next generation going to look like.
Fantastic. And in terms of, because obviously you started telling us about Rolls Royce. Obviously there's the cars as well. What sort of other roles are there in the area that you
so it's really quite varied. So it's an engineering company, so there's a lot of engineers, but there's loads of different types of engineers. So there's the ones that work on the design, there's ones that analyze some of the designs, there's people who work on materials, so people who've done chemistry background come and work in sort of the materials side. There's people who do testing, so we do loads of component level testing, but also whole engine testing. So we do fire tests, so setting components on fire, and there's people who do that. But it's not just engineers. It's a business as well. So we've got the program management side of the company. So people who look at how do we get all these plans of making all the parts, how do we get them all to come together and meet the milestones that we need to, how do we do it in budget as well, make sure we're not spending too much money. Then we've got like the customer facing people who do much more about sort of winning business and working with the airlines. And then obviously in a big company, you've got all the supporting functions. So human resources, looking after people, finance side. So it's quite varied in the amount of roles. And to me, that's been one of the great things about working for the company, is that if you didn't want to stay in engineering, you could kind of jump out into different areas of it as well. So it's a big company, lots of people in it, lots of different roles come into it, but at its heart, it's an engineering company.
So in terms of where you started to where you are now, what's been your journey in terms of academic and professional and those kind of things?
Yeah, so did A-levels after my GCSEs, did A-levels in physics, maths, French and geography. Why did I choose those subjects? It was purely just enjoyment. If they were the things that I like to do, and I thought, with that combination, I'm sure there'll be something. And I wanted to do a physics degree. That's what I wanted to do at school. I had a really great physics teacher, found it inspiring, wanted to learn more about kind of how the world worked around us. So I went to the University of Sheffield and did a master's degree in physics. And from the back of that degree, I thought, what do I want to do with it? And there's, you could stay in academia, you could go into teaching, go into finance, nuclear, and engineering. And I applied for a couple of different roles, but the one that I went for in the end was the graduate scheme at in Rolls Royce as a mechanical engineer. And so I took my physics knowledge, where we're learning the fundamental principles, and then got to apply it to aerospace.
Right.
So joined that back in 2011. So this will be my 10th year in the company. And I've just worked in various roles, up, in the company in those 10 years, and moved into different departments to get to where I have got to today.
Fantastic. I mean, I imagine from what you've said about the company and the diversity of roles, there's certain pathways that would be degree, a master's degree, and then I would imagine there'd be others that you could go more of a kind of an apprenticeship, practical.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was my route in, was I went through degree and then into the graduate scheme, but they've got two different apprenticeship schemes. So you've got the apprenticeship at 16, which is more teaching you how to sort of build and test the engine, and kind of the hands-on practical apprenticeship.
Sure.
And then you've got the higher apprenticeship as well, the 18 one, where they spend a year doing practical, and then the focus of that apprenticeship is rotating the apprentices round the different parts of the organisation. So I had a brilliant apprentice working for me last year. She was fantastic, done a number of placements, and she kind of came and worked for me in the part of the organisation that we were in for 6 months whilst doing her degree at the same time. And she's gone in, and she's gone in to become an engineer now in exactly the same way I did, post doing my graduate scheme, exactly the same level, exactly the same career prospects, but she didn't go to university and study and then join it. She did her university study alongside her apprenticeship, and then is now doing a master's funded by the company whilst working full-time as an engineer. So the company allow her to have the time off in order to kind of do the masters as well. So multiple different routes into it, and the apprenticeship really is one of the best routes in, because they're helping us do the job, helping us design the engines and make sure that they're safe and everything, while studying at the same time. So I mean, she's no university debt in that respect.
Well, yeah, and that's the best of both worlds. You're learning and doing it at the same time. I mean, in terms of I would imagine, I mean, going back, you said that you did French. I mean, I'm sure that there's an international element to working for Rolls Royce as well.
Absolutely,
so probably opportunities working in different countries.
Oh, it's a massively global business. So there's in the sort of services side of the organisation, so supporting those engines that are flying, you've got people all around the world in sort of the Middle East, in sort of the Asia, all round in America, supporting the fleet. And that's just a part of it. We've also got sites around the world. So we've got a site in America, and we've got a site in Germany. And I work really closely with our German colleagues. Sort of most weeks I have conversations with them. They work on the small engine aircraft, so your business jets for the super wealthy. They work on that side. But fundamentally, we're doing the same thing, just at a different scale. So we use the same kind of rules and tools, if you like, and so we work well with those. So I've been over in my career over to Germany a few times, over to America as well, working with the team over there.
Fantastic. What would I suppose there's never a typical day. So I won't even ask the question, what does a typical day look like? Well, unless you have got a typical day that you could tell us about. I
mean, every day is different, and I think that's the case of a lot of jobs, is that every day is different. Obviously, at the moment, we're all working from home, which has been a really interesting thing to learn. How do we do big collaborative meetings working from home? So I spend a lot of time on Teams and going from various team meetings. My role, because I lead the function and I lead the team of people, a lot of my time spent going to various sessions. They're not meetings where you sort of sit and listen to someone present. It's more collaborative sessions to try and come together and how are we going to solve this problem. So that's how I spend quite a lot of my time, into sort of along with that, sort of making PowerPoint presentations and so on to prepare ourselves and catching up on emails. So that's my job. People who work for me, they spend a lot of time either doing some testing. So we've got links with universities and they go and do testing and running tests at those universities, or doing analysis at their computers. So building models in, packages such as MATLAB as an example, or sort of the more analytical sort of 3D modeling approaches. So that's, what they probably spend more time kind of doing that sort of computer-based, desk-based work. But a lot of the job is working as teams, and we couldn't do this as individuals. It's getting together as groups of people with different skills and trying to solve problems.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, what would you say? Well, is there such a thing as the best part of your job?
The best part of my job is the people I work with, without a doubt, and because we have to solve quite complex technical problems, and then you've got the time pressure associated with that, because it's a business, so we've got to make the money. It can feel quite like you've got a lot on, and so you can't just do that yourself. But when you start sharing that out and working out how we're going to all come together to do it, I'd say that's the best part of my job, is having to think of a way through a problem, but knowing that you're doing it with other people and sort of bouncing ideas off each other as well.
It's the more collaborative approach. So the flip question: what's the most challenging bit? What's the worst?
Probably at the moment, it's probably working from the challenges of working from home and the constant being on the phone sort of thing and having those meetings virtually. But that's a short time frame thing.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I'd say probably the hardest part of the role is just that balance between technical risk and making sure things are safe enough with doing it quickly for the customers and to make us a business, and that's always going to be the hardest thing to negotiate our way through. So that can be the sort of source of the sort of pressure and if you like, in the role.
Right, fantastic. So I mean, from what you've said, and in terms of your role specifically, if you were to advise people, say at secondary school at the moment, I would imagine that your advice would be to focus largely on the STEM subjects with a view to then doing them at another level. But then again, from what you've also said, working for Rolls Royce, you've got such a range of roles that you could excel in material science or sort of massive variety.
Yeah, so I think your classical engineering routes tend to be your sciences and your maths based skills, and getting onto the apprenticeship scheme, you still need to demonstrate that you've got good understanding of your science and your maths, and that is where it's going to go. A lot of the jobs learned on the job. I didn't learn to be an engineer at university. I did physics, but I was taught how to be an engineer through working for the company, which is it's a great thing, is that you're constantly learning. I mean, some of the other jobs within the company, so that the HR, the finance, that side of things, it's not so much the science aspects of it, it's more the people parts of it. But largely, to get into engineering, you do need to look at those STEM subjects and then kind of progress them at school, and then into either your practical use of them or the university studies.
Fantastic. And one final question from me. If you weren't doing this job, what would you love to do?
If I wasn't doing this job, I've got, can I have two answers?
Yeah.
So the one thing I've always wanted to do, and I still think I might go into at some point in my career, is medical physics or medical engineering. Okay. It was not an option I considered at university, and then until my final year, and I was up then against people who'd studied medical physics to get a role in that. I think given the sort of practical experience I've had of being an engineer for the past 10 years, I could make a transition from the role that I do. The skills are transferable to different sectors. And I've always wanted to think, working in aerospace is great. We've got a great opportunity for improving the emissions and environmental side of things. But I think the medical engineering or physics could be a great way to bring in sort of really doing something good and adding value and
Sure.
changing people's lives and having that human part of it.
Mm.
So that's kind of, I think, if I was staying within engineering, I'd love to go and do that.
Yeah, yeah.
My wildcard answer is I'd like to be a florist.
Okay.
Something completely different. I think
Why not?
would be quite a nice, satisfying job to do, and bring on a completely different set of, and more of a creative outlet, perhaps.
I think you're the second person I've interviewed that's actually said that they would like to be a florist as an alternative career. I can't remember what the other person did, but yeah, it kind of blindsided me at that time as well.
Yeah, well, maybe to the students watching this, that could be a career opportunity.
Well, exactly. Why not? Engineering to floristry.
Yeah.
That's great. Hannah, thanks ever so much for your time. Really
No
do
problem.
appreciate it. So,
All
you
right.
take care.
Thank you
Cheers.
very much.
Bye.
Bye.